behind a cape. Since somebody in the comments decided to say that Power Rangers should also be included because they are also superheroes, which is, that's fair.
Cool.
I wanted to start off with a little fun fact. Did you know that the person playing Zack that we know to play Zack, the Black Ranger, is not actually the first Black Ranger?
Was it the Yellow Ranger?
Actually, yeah, they were technically different colors at first. I think it was the Green Ranger.
Okay.
Or blue.
It was a woman, right? It was a black. No.
Well, maybe there was before that, but it was Miguel Nunez, who also played Juana Man, was technically the first Black Ranger.
Shut up.
Yep.
Shut up. He was a Power Ranger?
Yep.
Get out of here.
Yep. Juana Man was the first Black Ranger. That wig is crazy. I don't know if that's a wig. That actually might be his actual hair.
Oh, cut it out. Cut it out with the little Richard wig.
Yeah. So technically they were, I guess it was the pilot, and they were known as Bioman, and he was Zack Taylor. And he was known as Biorhythm Green.
Shout out to Juana, man.
Yeah. Yep. So, I don't know. Just a fun little fact, I guess. All right. So, there is supposedly Mandalorian news about their ratings slipping.
Well, yeah, I mean, it ain't news to me because I'm still watching. But, yeah, apparently for the first half of the season, for season 3 of Mandalorian, the ratings have dropped precipitously, especially between the debut episode and the preceding 2 after that. I mean, I'm not feeling it because I'm watching. I'm still enjoying. I won't count myself as part of the majority at this point that have kind of hopped off the train. But I'm still watching Mando, so it's not affecting me the same way. Like, it's unfortunate, and I think some of it has to do with Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Disney at large, and their overall brand taking a hit at the moment. I think Mando is suffering some residual. I think the 2-year layoff in between season 2 and season 3 plays a role, right? You make people sit around forever, in the stuff that they've gotten Star Wars in the mist, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I guess some people like Bad Batch. Bad Batch is okay, but there just hasn't been a whole lot that tied you over in between Mandalorian seasons. And so you've seen the residual effect of the brand not sustaining itself by the time you get to the 3rd season, which everybody was anticipating, but it's not delivering at the scale as probably what was projected prior to the season starting.
Well, plus with that, if it was 2 years, with all that building up anticipation, expectations naturally rise.
Yep.
So that works against you.
And it's still it is still a very slow world building ramp up type of story, but it's been enjoyable for me. Now I can't speak for anybody else, but I like where they're going. I think their biggest challenge is going to be to sustain the level of interest from this over to Ahsoka, and then from Ahsoka into their 2025 movie, right? To keep building, right? Because right now it seems like you're losing viewership. Yeah. And that as a whole, like Disney Plus viewership, is going to be more of a Disney question as opposed to just a straight up Mando question, because Mando's still getting more eyeballs than anything else on Disney Plus right now outside of Bluey.
Yikes.
If people aren't watching, they're not watching. So it's hard not to criticize in that standpoint, but in terms of what's actually being seen, the content itself, I don't think that has fallen off as much as maybe the ratings are showing.
Yeah. So it would seem that Blue Beetle has its trailer coming out. I don't know when we're dropping this, but it's coming out on Monday.
Yeah. I'm interested, man. Again, this is one of the ones that were still being made while James Gunn was taking over at DC. So, again, this was one of the pre-Gods and Monsters releases. But let's see how closely is it adaptable? Is it something that, even though, it wasn't made before the plan was done, is it something that can still be carried over? Titles like Shazam and Aquaman or whatever, they had the potential, but it doesn't We just don't know. I mean, the reports from the Aquaman screenings are woo. Like I think they looked at the prospect of Aquaman. I think they looked at the prospect of that movie coming out with Amber Heard starring or having a major role in it, and they shuddered at the idea of doing that. And I think they might have butchered the film as a result of it. I don't know though. Who knows? You know, it may come out and have some tweaks and it may be successful. Who knows? But it ain't sounding too good.
Yeah,
it ain't sounding too good. So. That's not a great look for Blue Beetle, but at the same time, I think it has more potential than any of the other holdovers.
My thing about Blue Beetle is that if it's not a good movie and it gets word of mouth, you know, especially with, you know, the way ratings work and things like that, it could end up doing even possibly worse than Shazam.
Oh,
because it doesn't have
the
benefit. Yeah, it's a new character. It doesn't have the benefit of having a Shazam 1 or a Blue Beetle 1 in this case. And so it's very possible that this could tank even worse, especially knowing that DC is also going to change over anyway.
Yeah.
So it's in a really weird position, but if they made a good movie, then maybe we can talk about.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Right? We'll see.
Yeah. It's all dependent on what they do with it. And the trailer, when it drops, would be interesting to see at least.
Yeah.
If it drums up any anticipation.
The trailer's coming out tomorrow, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's move on to Disney/Marvel.
Okay.
So your boy Ike Perlmutter.
Yikes! Yeah, big boy Ike is out at Marvel, and then also the division of Marvel Entertainment has been dissolved, and they're rolling the comic books and everything that was underneath Marvel Entertainment back up underneath Disney. Don't know what that means for comic books. Be honest. I don't know how high of esteem, you know, Disney as a company has for physical property at this point. It's not going to save them a whole lot of money, you know, dissolving comic books. So that's probably good news for comic book fans and comic buyers of physical comic books. It doesn't really save them a whole lot of money not to do it anymore. But it doesn't seem like, you know, on the other side, that it's quite the breeding ground for their cinematic universe that it used to be. I mean, they're still pulling from stories that are coming out of comic books, but very loosely. And so you can begin to see the disconnect between those two in this latest phase. And so it just begs the question of, you know, what's going to happen with comics now that Marvel Entertainment is done and it's not its separate. I mean, they always answered to Feige and Iger at some level, but now it's going to be a lot more direct when you fold into the division. So I don't know.
It sounds to me that it's a possibility that they could just use comics at that point to just illustrate literally stories that they plan on coming out in terms of movies, so that they have free reign to essentially make whatever fucking stories they want.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the reverse engineer that way. Like it should be the natural thing that the comic book stories feed their way to the screen and not the reverse. I think you've gotten instances of that where they try to use the comics, you know, as a testing ground for what is to come in the movies. And it hasn't always worked.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything that we've seen in Phase 4 essentially was some failed comic book run. Was Jane Foster's store. Was, I wouldn't say, you know, Deadliest Species was failed, but it was short-lived for Shuri's Black Panther stint. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, I don't necessarily like it, but I just feel like Disney already doesn't give a shit about some of the stories anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't. They're not pulling from direct source material anyway, so it just. I'm trying to figure out a way that they value it to still make it a valuable product.
Maybe they test the stories out through comic books, and then I don't know.
We'll see.
It just seems like a weird thing to. Well, they're probably saving money with it too. Yeah. So,
but with Perlmutter, man, his writing was on the wall the minute that Nelson Peltz backed off the proxy fight. Right, Ike Perlmutter was the most vocal supporter of Nelson Peltz in the proxy fight that Disney was having some months ago before their first investor call at the beginning of the year. And once Nelson backed out and he was no longer, you know, lobbying to get on the Disney board, and he took the concessions with whatever Iger was planning to do financially, which we're seeing now is fire a bunch of people, executives included. He was out to dry. He worked very hard to get Nelson Peltz on that board. Iger didn't want it. He fought it vehemently. And once all of that subsided, Iger was out in the cold, man. Perlmutter was out in the cold. Like, ever since that spat with Kevin Feige, he's kind of been on the outs anyways. Marvel Entertainment used to be the division that handled all of Marvel TV.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Inhumans, unfortunately, all of the stuff on Netflix, all that was Ike Perlmutter. And it should be noted that Perlmutter, early 2000s, pre-MCU, kept Marvel just viable enough to get purchased by Disney and birth this MCU. If it wasn't for Perlmutter, it probably wouldn't have survived that long. It should also be noted that Perlmutter only got Marvel in the first place. Like, okay, digging into the rabbit hole here. Perlmutter was like some guy in Florida. I think he owned some patent companies or something like that. And I think he, like, the former owners of Marvel Comics, he, like, kind of, like, snaked it out from underneath him. Like, he probably should have never got the company in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah, so that happens. Then he gets it just viable enough to sell it to Disney, right? And then he gets himself a nice cushy job running Marvel Entertainment. He's doing all the TV shows. And then he gets into a spat with Kevin Feige. It said that he was one of the main guys trying to keep Black Panther from getting on screen, trying to get Captain Marvel on the screen, which, if that's true, those are not two very good ticks on your track record, because those are $2 billion films.
Yep.
Whether you thought it was sustainable or not, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
But in any case, he does that. He gets his wings clipped. He's still on the Disney board, but now all creative decisions run through Kevin Feige because he wanted Kevin Feige fired. So then he stews on that for, like, when did that happen? That happened, oh man, that was a minute ago. It's like 2012, 2013. Like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. So he's stewing, and now he has his last ditch opportunity to really stick it to Iger and Feige and all the people who shunned him back then when he brought them Marvel, right? I was the one that kept it alive and I sold it to you. Now you guys have neutered me and I'm nothing but a figurehead on the bench. Well, I'll show you. I'll get a buddy in here. And Nelson Peltz, now in the onset of it kind of looks like he used Perlmutter. It looked like he used Perlmutter to show Iger what kind of influence he had and how close he could actually get to him. And so Iger acquiesced a bit, right? And so in that, one of those sacrifice pieces that Peltz ends up giving up is Perlmutter. He's like, oh, well, do with Ike what you want. I know you probably wanted him gone for a while. So
yikes. One
of those cuts is probably Perlmutter. Sure. And Alonzo and all the people who have major, and probably Kathleen Kennedy, like all the people who have made your life hard that you can't fire because of your outward facing persona, which you tell people the company is about, the values that you say espouse. Well, these are your shields. These people are your shields for all of that, but they're also the ones that are hurting the business the most because of toxic work environments, because of creative decisions, because of turns away from canon or lore or character descriptions. Like, they're the ones doing it. It's them. So I think Iger is trying to, as best as he can, clear the deck to try to make a breeding ground for new, fresh ideas and something innovative, trying to flex it. Now, how far does he actually go to make that happen? Right? Because he's got two more years? He only re-signed for 3 years to be CEO. Mm-hmm. So he's got 2 more years to try to whip this thing into shape. How long does Kevin Feige get? How long of a leash does that guy get? How many times does he get to be executive producer of blah, yada, yada, and it doesn't?
And it fails?
Just not doing it. Not there.
Yeah.
Because now, as we look across the plane of people to blame that aren't Kevin Feige, it ain't too many. It's not too many people. So now, whatever we see from this point out better be good.
Yeah.
It better be damn good.
We'll see.
He does not have that buffer anymore.
Speaking of Disney, seems like they're trying to get Ron DeSantis the hell up out of here.
Oh my God. What an embarrassment.
Yeah.
What an embarrassment. Man, imagine building, trying to propel a campaign off the back of you bullying Disney in something that quite honestly shouldn't be happening anyway.
Yeah.
Disney, a corporation, should not have a municipality that they run and govern themselves, right? That they tax themselves, that they police themselves. That's extremely problematic. But DeSantis can't even do that. He can't even win at that. Can't even win. Puts an entire board of government officials over Reedy Creek District to try to strip Disney of their independent power. Only they weren't able to secure any real power for that board to wield. And so now they're just a figurehead. They're just there for show because they have no real decision-making power now.
Yeah.
Imagine having worse lawyers in a bout with a company in the government, and you got the worst lawyers. How? What an embarrassment. What a joke. You're trying to be president, fam? You trying to be president? You want us to give you the nuclear launch codes? We want to send you to NATO to negotiate the people? You ain't going to Davos. Not on our behalf. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, the thing about
Fucking
this
goober.
is if they are successful in holding this like this, what's stopping anybody from starting a corporation and keeping the
as long as it's big
government out
enough,
of
you
it?
got enough money, you can just take over an entire municipality.
The way that they apparently did it is they kind of started like a homeowners association effectively. Mm-hmm. And through that, they have governing powers over
the Reedy Creek District. It's ran by Disney. Yeah.
And it's just like, what's stopping anybody else from doing that? And
Nothing.
Keeping
nothing. It's very problematic that they're able to do it. It's just that also an equally corrupt but not as good at it person went after them and lost. Low-key creating some sort of precedence here because there's no other resort that size, I don't think, within the United States. Well, no, I could be wrong about that because there's Aspen and all that other stuff up there in Colorado. But I don't think there's a resort of that size that literally occupies an entire region within a state.
But again, what's stopping Google or Apple from
Amazon
from buying a land
nothing
and doing that
other surrounding that other residents actually live on and now have to.
They've got the funds to do it. Hundreds of billions of dollars for these corporations.
And now they have the Reedy Creek Police and the Reedy Creek Fire Department, which are all funded by Disney.
How funny that the Republican Party. So I didn't mean to make this political, by the way, but they are willing to back corporations, and then corporations are going to make their own governments effectively now.
And now you can't. You've gone out here and you've started this fight with them, right? And then you actually strangled them down, and it looks like they were actually going to lose it. And now they've made you look like a doofus. So what now? What now? I'm supposed to believe that you can do this at a national scale when the theme park's kicking your ass?
Yikes.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Joke.
All right, on to much less political news. That was different. Supposedly, Ryan Coogler is creating a new X-Files with a diverse cast. Not necessarily superhero news, but Ryan Coogler kind of fits the mold.
So you're going to race swap the characters in X-Files. First of all, Ryan, are we ever going to see an original work from you? Are we ever going to get some original work?
Nah.
It was one thing to go from Oscar Grant to Black Panther series. That's an amazing jump. Or excuse me, Oscar Grant to Creed to Black Panther. Mm-hmm. Both of those, I feel like, even though they're of the same thing, established IP that you're just adapting, it still feels there's a degree of the separation between those three things that shows a little bit of versatility.
Yeah.
But now We've gotten a few more years into it. Okay, Creed 2. Okay, Black Panther 2. Okay,
Creed 3.
Creed.
Oh,
well, he wasn't.
Yeah,
he was.
yeah.
I think he was. He might have been EP on Creed 3, but he wasn't.
He didn't direct it.
He didn't direct it. Yeah, write it. And now we're doing an X-Files adaptation with a different cast. It's like, okay, now there's a pattern here.
Yeah.
It's like, are you only gonna be able to do adaptations of other people's work? And again, it's not a bad thing if that's just, something that you have in your repertoire. But now as we see the full body of work, what have you done that hasn't been adapted? At that scale, with a major studio, right? I'm not talking any of his early indie stuff. I'm talking about, MGM, Disney Studios, whoever owns X-Files, that kind of stuff. It's only ever been adaptations. That feels like a pigeonhole to me. That's not in a place where I would want to be.
Yep. No, I agree. Supposedly, I didn't know this is the working title for the next Doctor Strange movie, but Doctor Strange, Nexus of Nightmares, they've gotten a writer, multiple writers. Sam Raimi, who wrote and directed the last one.
Yep.
And who was the first one?
Scott Derrickson.
Okay.
He directed the first Doctor Strange movie. I actually like this because it kind of brings a sense of cohesion to the Doctor Strange trilogy. Mm-hmm. That you have both creators. I think there was a degree of separation between Multiverse of Madness and the first Doctor Strange, right? Yeah. You can tell it was a different feel, different tone. I enjoyed Multiverse of Madness for the most part. Had its problems, but I did enjoy that movie. And I'm a Sam Raimi fan. I like his horror. But to now have the balancing act of both of those guys writing the script together and having some, some say on the visual aesthetics, like, I think that's an interesting mix. Yeah. Because there was a contrast between what Derrickson showed you and how he brought the character to life, and what Raimi gave you and how visceral watching that movie was at times. Like, it was the closest thing to true horror I think we'll ever get in the MCU. Maybe Werewolf by Night, but
which is
definitely
Werewolf
Doctor
by
Strange
Night,
Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. I think that's the closest we'll ever get. I don't know how they're going to do Blade, but I'm losing confidence rapidly.
As you should.
Rapidly.
Fantastic Four has gotten a new writer as well. It's Josh Friedman of Avatar: Way of the World. So,
okay.
Considering they don't have a cast, it's not much to.
Yeah, I was about to say, sure.
Because who you cast to play the first family is going to be.
That's what matters most,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Also, another one of those projects that got announced back in 2020 that is no closer to being, starting the film rolling. So
it's not going to come out till 2026.
Hard to get excited over stuff that's not actively being made, that you're just telling me is in production. Production means they're still making phone calls. In productions mean they're probably still compiling a cast. Yep. They're still compiling a staff. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't mean that the thing is actually going to get made.
Yeah.
They have a complete staff and cast for Acolyte, and they don't even know if that's going to get made. They're shooting a pilot for Bob Iger. So until I see some official announcements by someone who works at Disney or a trailer or something of the sort, I'll believe it when I see it.
We'll see. That was all I had. Was there anything else that you had?
That's quick. Nope. Speed round. Give us your thoughts on everything we discussed today. If you had any other, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Power Rangers news.
John Wick, which we mentioned last week.
Yeah. Put it in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Come back next week for another Behind the Cape episode.
Absolutely. And make sure you check out our previous video. Why do I never remember what the previous video is?
I don't know, bro.
Previous video was Jonathan Majors. Yep. So make sure you check out that video. And then also make sure you subscribe because we will be doing a Behind the Cape every week.